Hello ladies and gentlemen, in today's lesson we'll go over some ways for giving and reacting to pieces of good and bad news. First, we have to make a distinction between good news and bad news. Good news can be defined as pieces of information that make you feel happy and positive. In contrast, bad news are saddening pieces of information, that is, the pieces of information that make you feel sad and upset. Consider this list of news. We are going to classify them into two categories, good news and bad news. We'll put this emoticon next to pieces of bad news and this one next to pieces of good news. Well, let's start. The first news. A large number of people have died from coronavirus COVID-19. This is a piece of bad news. The second news. Scientists are working day and night to find a cure to coronavirus. It is, of course, good news. The third news. Your friend lost his job. It is bad news because it makes you feel sad and upset. The fourth, your brother got a scholarship to study in France. It is good news. It makes you feel happy and positive. The last news, your dad got a promotion at work. It is good news. So we have two pieces of bad news, news number 1 and news number 3, and 3 pieces of good news, news number 2, news number 4, and news number 5. Now let us read together this dialogue. It's between William and Matt. William: hello Matt. Matt: hello William. William: I have some good news to tell you. Matt: excellent. I like good news. William: I'll be getting married next month. Matt: oh, congratulations. Are you excited? William: yes, of course. In this dialogue, William told Matt a piece of good news. It is, I will be getting married next month. So this piece of news made Matt feel happy. And the expression that William used for introducing this piece of good news is, I have some good news to tell you. This is a common expression used to introduce a piece of good news. Now look at the reaction of Matt. Oh, congratulations. This is one way for reacting to a piece of good news. Now let us see more expressions used to give and react to pieces of good news. For giving or telling good news, we can use different expressions like, I'm really pleased to tell you that, plus the piece of good news. I've got some good news for you, or I've got a bit of good news to tell you. For example, you want to introduce this piece of good news in English. I was at the doctor's office this morning and he said that I'm pregnant. You want to introduce it, so you can introduce it using one of the expressions in the list. I'm going to use the second expression. I've got some good news for you. So, I've got some good news for you. I was at the doctor's office this morning and he said that I'm pregnant. For reacting to good news, we can use the expression, that's fantastic, brilliant, great, wonderful, or splendid news. That's some great news. That's awesome. Congratulations. Superb. incredible, great news, sounds great, what splendid news. Really? This expression should be used with a positive intonation, otherwise it is used for reacting to a piece of bad news. I'm happy, pleased, or delighted for you, or I feel happy for you. These expressions, superb, incredible, great news, sounds great, and so on, they can be introduced using these expressions of surprise. Whoa, oh, for example, whoa, that's awesome. Oh, congratulations. Oh, great news. Have a look at this dialogue. It's between Mary and John. Mary, hey John, I need to talk to you. John, hello Mary, you look sad. What's wrong? Mary, I'm sorry, I've got some bad news for you. John, what is it? Mary, my brother had an accident yesterday. John, oh my goodness, that's awful. Where is he now? Mary, he's at the hospital. They said that he had serious injuries. John, I must go and see him now. Here, Mary told John a piece of bad news. It is, my brother had an accident yesterday. She used the expression, I'm sorry, I've got some bad news for you, to introduce this piece of bad news. And the expression that John used for reacting to this piece of bad news is, oh my goodness, that's awful. This is a common way for reacting to a piece of bad news. Let us learn more expressions used for reacting and giving bad news. For giving bad news, we can use different ways or expressions like, I'm sorry to tell you that. I'm sorry to have to say this, but plus the piece of bad news. I'm afraid I've got some bad news for you. I don't know how to tell you this, but, or I'm sorry, I've got some bad news for you. Let me give you an example. For introducing this piece of bad news, I failed my exam. We can use one of the expressions that I have just mentioned. I'm going to use the second expression. I'm sorry to have to say this, but I failed my exam. I'm so disappointed. For reacting to such news, we can use the expression, that's awful, that's saddening, that must be awful, that's terrible, sorry to hear that, poor you, I sympathize with you, oh my goodness. Really? This one should be used with a negative intonation. The last two expressions, oh my goodness and really, I recommend that you use them before the first group of expressions. That's awful, that's saddening, that must be awful, that's terrible, or sorry to hear that. For example, oh my goodness, that's awful. Oh my goodness, that must be awful. Really? That's terrible. I recommend that you don't use them alone. Consider the note at the bottom of the slide. The expression oh no or oh my god can be used as an initial reactions to bad news and then another one of the phrases above. This means that the expressions oh no or oh my god can be used to introduce these expressions. That's awful, that's saddening, that must be awful, that's terrible, or sorry to hear that. For example, oh no, that's awful. Oh my god, that's saddening. Now let us practice the expressions that you have just learned. I have here two exercises. Exercise 1, complete the dialogues with the appropriate expressions. In this dialogue, you are required to fill in the blanks with the appropriate expressions that you have learned. The first dialogue is between person A and person B. So person A introduced a piece of good news. I've just passed my driving test. So it should be introduced using one of the expressions that you've learned, used for introducing good news. We can say, for example, I'm really happy to tell you that I have just passed my driving test. Person B, oh, congratulations. So person B reacts to this piece of good news using the expression, oh, congratulations. And this is the most commonly used expression for reacting to a piece of good news. Dialogue 2. Person A, that I passed the National Baccalaureate exam. So this person introduces or would like to introduce a piece of bad news. Good news, sorry. That I passed the National Baccalaureate exam. So we can introduce, we should introduce this piece of news using one expression, because we have that, and there is only one expression in that. So it's, I'm really pleased to tell you that. If we don't have that, then we can use other expressions like, I've got some good news for you. We cannot say, I've got some good news for you that I passed the National Baccalaureate exam. So that obliges us to use the expression in that. I'm really pleased to tell you that I passed the National Baccalaureate exam. It's a piece of good news. So person B can react to it using one of the expressions used for reacting to good news, like, what fantastic news, oh, congratulations, or superb, this is the happiest day in my life. The third dialogue, person A, my grandfather died yesterday. So person A wants to introduce a piece of bad news. So for introducing it, we can say, I'm sorry to tell you that my grandfather died yesterday. Or, I'm afraid I've got some bad news for you. Full stop. My grandfather died yesterday. Person B should react as follows. Oh my God, that's awful. Or, oh no, that's saddening. Please accept my sincere condolences. So we can add this phrase after reacting to this piece of bad news. Let's move on to the second practice exercise. In this exercise, you are required to respond or react to the situations given. So as you see, you are given 7 situations, and you are required to react appropriately to them using the expressions that you have learned. Situation 1, your brother, I got a visa to the USA. So before reacting to this news, before reacting to these pieces of news, you have first to identify whether the news is good or bad. So the first piece of news, your brother, I got a visa to the USA. It's a piece of good news. So for reacting to it, we can say, oh, congratulations, or superb, what splendid news. And we can add this sentence, I'm sure you'll achieve all of your goals there. Oh, congratulations, I'm sure you'll achieve all your goals there. Situation 2, your friend, I got divorced from my husband. It is a piece of bad news. So we can react to it like this. Oh no, I'm sorry to hear that. Or, oh my God, that's saddening. Situation 3, your sister, I'm pregnant. So this is a piece of good news. So one way for reacting to this piece of good news is, this means that I'm going to be an uncle. What splendid news. Or just, what splendid news. Oh, congratulations. It's another way for reacting to this piece of news. Situation 4, your neighbor, my son had an accident yesterday. It's a piece of bad news. So we can react to it as follows. Oh my God, that's terrible. How is he now? Or, oh no, that's awful. How is he now? Situation 5, your brother, I found a good job. It's a piece of good news. The reaction is, that's awesome. You will earn money and buy whatever you want. Or, oh, congratulations. You will earn money and buy whatever you want. The last situation, your cousin, I got fired from my job. In other words, your cousin lost his job. So we can react to it like this. Oh no, that's terrible. Never mind. You'll find a better job soon. Well, this exercise is the last part of this lesson. Before we end it, let's quickly summarize what you learned from this video. What I talked about was some common ways for giving and reacting to good and bad news. For reacting to bad news, we can say, I'm sorry to tell you that. I'm afraid I've got some bad news for you. Or, I don't know how to tell you this, but. For reacting to bad news, we can use the expression, that's awful, that's saddening, oh my goodness, that's terrible, or that's awful. Poor you, I sympathize with you. And we can introduce these expressions using, oh my God, or oh no. For giving good news, we can say, I'm really pleased to tell you that. I've got some good news for you. Or, I've got a piece of good news to tell you. For reacting to such news, we can say, that's fantastic news. That's wonderful news. Great news. Oh, congratulations. That's awesome. What splendid news. What I'd like you to do when you leave this video is to memorize these expressions and try to use them when you speak and write. Thank you so much for your attention.